Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Jake, the Muslim Metaphysician. I'm late as always. This time, only 5 minutes, so sorry about that. But anyway, I've got an interesting episode for you guys today. As you can see, the title of the video is called Apostate Christian Embarrasses Himself. Obviously, by the thumbnail, you can tell that I'm speaking about a person that goes by the name of Apostate Prophet. It's a little bit of a joke, obviously, because he's hanging out with the Christian audience and his Christian apologists so frequently because they like to team up with each other against Islam. And we know they have to join forces because Islam is too hard on them, that they can't deal with it individually. So they think, well, we'll try to come together and see what we can do if we can try to take Islam down together. Of course, they can't and they never will, but that's another story. But anyway, if you guys didn't see, I had a short that went out earlier today that had a similar title. Let me see if I could pull it up so you can understand the context of this video here. Where is it? 1 second. I just literally jumped on my laptop now, so I didn't have it ready. Let me just pull it up here. But I hope everybody is well. I hope you guys are doing well in the chat. And if you guys didn't notice, I've been publishing more shorts lately because people tell me, that's what people are interested in. People have a low attention span. Jake, what are you doing with all these 1-2 hour stream videos? I like to just jump on, click play, or click record, go live, and just go off. But anyway, let me pull this up here. One second. Okay, let me see if I can share my screen here. Anyway, guys, for those who are joining, let's give this video a thumbs up, like it, subscribe, and share the stream if you haven't already. And if you don't like it, leave a nasty comment. I always enjoy those from time to time, and give it a thumbs down. Unsubscribe, don't watch, I don't care. But if you like it and you want to see more videos like this, then support it in the normal ways. And if you want to go above and beyond, as I always mention, there is a ticking at the bottom. The best way to support me is on the GoFundMe link if you want to give a donation, or it's also pinned in the live chat and in the description of the video. Anyway, jumping into this, let me share my screen now and show you what this video is all about. Now, I made a short basically expressing this, but I wanted to, 1 second here. I wanted to expand on what happened in this short clip here. So here it is. Let's go.
There's not a single person that they can actually point to who is a Christian or a non-Muslim or something who actually verifiably said, hey, you know what, guys, I watched this conversation and I agree with the Muslim side. They were much better. Not a single person.
So there we have Apostate Prophet, also known as Apostate Christian. I've created that name. Thank you very much. So we, instead of AP, we're going to call him AC, Apostate Christian now. So if he happens to, get money off of that name, make sure he gives it to me. But anyway, you can see in there, he's making a claim on his live stream. What happens is that after the recent Patrick Bet David podcast that Daniel Hakikachu and myself were on, along with the two career Islamophobes, Apostate Rashid and what's his name, Robert Spencer. After that, first of all, the conversation didn't go very well from the Christians, and we'll see that many Christians even think this and have said this. And so because of that, they've been reeling. They've been doing a lot of live streams trying to reclaim the narrative and do damage control. All these different, apologists and Islamophobes. So anyway, on a recent live stream, this is where Apostate Christian made this claim that and he brought up an example, which I don't know. I didn't really look into it, but supposedly claiming that someone in the comment section of one of the videos was posing as a Christian, but was actually a Muslim. I don't know. I'm not denying it, but he was using that as an example and then saying there's not a single Christian or a single non-Muslim that thinks that the Muslims won the discussion or did well in the discussion, right? This is basically what he's saying. And that's just not the case at all. In fact, I saw so many Christians doing it, and I wanted to post the videos, but then I thought, well, Jake, it's getting a bit overkill just posting these Christians that are agreeing with what a lot of what the Muslims had to say and thinking that the Christians did very poorly in their debate performance, thinking that the Muslims appeared to be on top, whether they agreed with everything we said or not. That was like the standard narrative that I see from the Christians. So anyway, he makes this claim, and then watch, we'll see that that's not true.
I have to call it how I see it. The Christian side made huge mistakes in this debate. Just objectively watch.
Okay, so there you go. This is a Christian. He's a Catholic. And I'm going to play larger sections from each one of these videos to give more context to show that I'm not taking this out of context. But he says, and his own thumbnail of the video that this is in literally says Christians made huge mistakes or something like that, right? So, yeah, he's saying that the Christians made huge mistakes. And then now he says, watching the debate, you would get the impression that the Muslims actually won the debate, the common person watching
the debate, seeing it for what it was. I think most people would say that the Muslim side actually won the debate.
So most people, if they're just watching it, seeing it for what it was, according to him, seeing it for what it was, not seeing it for something else and misunderstanding what it actually was, seeing it for what it was, the common people, most of the audience would think that the Muslim side won the debate. That's a Christian saying it. So there already you're being refuted. Now here's a career Islamophobe, as we know, Scam Shamoon. Let's listen to what he has to say.
Spencer dropped the ball because he answered presumptuously.
Robert Spencer dropped the ball because he answered presumptuously.
He answered quickly instead of thinking about the Old Testament. This is the problem with many of these apologists.
Now he goes on to tell you this is the problem with these apologists. Why?
They're not trained in the Old Testament. And they think
so. He's saying that Robert Spencer is not trained in the Old Testament. That's why he couldn't deal with me and my argument, which completely embarrassed him.
I think they can simply ignore the Old Testament. The Muslims are not going to ignore the Old Testament.
Sad. Exactly. The Muslims are not going to ignore the Old Testament. So that's the second one. So Sam Shamoon, and there's more that he had to say, Scam Shamoon, that Robert Spencer dropped the ball, right? And that the Muslims are not going to ignore the Old Testament. He's referring to my interrogation of Robert Spencer, which he looked very poorly. I mean, it's just obvious to anybody's watching, including honest Christians. Now, here's a third Christian who comments on it. He says, sadly, the Christians. Now, why is he saying sadly? Because he's a Trinitarian Christian himself.
Sadly, the Christians, Rachid and Spencer, those guys who are supposed to be the Christians here, did not do in my opinion, a very good job.
So there you have it, folks. He says, the third guy says, Rashid and Robert Spencer, the two Christian guys, didn't do a very good job. What? They didn't do a very good job. And by the way, let me just see if I can tweet this out real quick. You guys can deal with it because I didn't get the chance to tweet this out that I'm live. So let me let people know that I am live here. Okay, live now. All right. So anyway, apostate prophet, apostate Christian, man, I keep calling him the wrong name. Apostate Christian completely embarrassed himself because he made this claim that nobody was, not a single non-Muslim, including Christians, right? What do you call it? You're saying Twitter's dead. It's not dead. It's talk for the law. What are you talking about? Well, technically it's called X now, but X is live and well. I don't know what you're talking about. Somebody also sent a super chat here. Shukran Habibi for the dawah you do. You crushed it last debate. Hope you continue your work and prosper in all aspects. Plus, your beard looks dope. Thanks for that. Appreciate it. May Allah bless you. Keep up the good work and watch out for ego and false praise. All good is from Allah. Of course, all good is from Allah. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. So, of course, we have to always remember that. Whether the praise is true or false, it doesn't matter. You're not really supposed to praise people overly, excessively to their face. So that's something we always have to keep in mind as Muslims. Now, why is this so embarrassing? Well, apostate Christian just cannot believe, right, that non-Muslims, Christians, atheists, or otherwise, even if they don't agree with everything that the Muslims said, could say, well, watching it from an optics perspective, the Muslims look confident, they had better arguments, they had better questions, they had better responses, etc., etc. That doesn't mean that they agreed with everything that we had to say, but they could say overall, the Muslims would appear to an audience as if they came out on top. And that's what my claim was in showing those clips. An apostate prophet or apostate Christian cannot seem to accept that. Now, there's been an interesting development. I don't know if he's watching live. Apostate Christian, if you're watching live, thank you very much. If you're not, that's fine too. But he actually DM'd me on Twitter when he saw that I was going to be doing a stream. Although he didn't mention that, but I'm sure it was related to me, him seeing that I was going to be doing a stream on him tonight, and he probably saw the short video. I think he did from the beginning of when he messaged me. And starts asking me if I want to have a discussion with him. And anyway, it developed into a back and forth. I told him, look, I'm willing to even delay the stream tonight. You can come on my stream. Right? I'm not going to mute you or throw you out or anything like that. And you can question me about what I said on the PBD podcast, the Patrick David podcast. You can question me about that, and I'll question you about what your claims are and what you have to say related to this topic. And he declined. I think he wanted me to come on his channel. And he wanted to actually do a debate and all that kind of stuff. But his position on what he wants to debate is not even clear. So I told him, you can't debate unless you really have a clear position. But he told me I could reference that Twitter conversation. And it's funny because on one of the important debate questions that I asked to Robert Spencer during the debate, which he folded like a beach chair, I folded him like a pretzel. Is the death penalty for apostates inherently immoral? Robert Spencer floundered. First he said, oh, it looks like a trap. Then he said, well, I don't know. I never thought of it. And then when I pointed out the absurdity of you saying, well, you never thought of it, yet you've been attacking Islam for having that all this time. And he realized the hypocrisy and problem of saying he doesn't know and he hasn't thought of it. So then he immediately, after my critique, changed to him saying, oh, it is inherently immoral. Then I already had this mapped out. Then when he said that, then I said, well, if it's inherently immoral, then you have to accuse your God and Jesus of being inherently immoral because they commanded it and approved of it in the Old Testament. And then he waffled around about giving it a possible interpretation that those could be fables and it wasn't with the apostasy law. That was something else. That was when he was discussing 1 Samuel 15, I believe. But then he started waffling around about, oh, well, the New Testament is abrogating the Old Testament and all this other nonsense. And that, Christians haven't held to those laws, those apostasy laws, and that's all gone and done away with, which isn't true, which I'm going to do a video on that probably maybe tomorrow night, inshallah. I'll do a video on that because I got a couple videos I have to do. But anyway, I asked Apostate Christian the same question in DMs. Is it inherently immoral for the punishment for apostasy to be death? The death penalty for apostates, is that inherently immoral? And he said, no, it's not inherently immoral. So all this whining that he's going on about when he says that, oh, look, these guys want to kill us. How are we going to build bridges with them? Blah, 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 whining like a little baby. And then he's admitting from his own moral standpoint, it's not inherently immoral to punish apostates with the death penalty. Really? Really? He should go on his YouTube channel and make a community post and say just that. It is not inherently immoral for apostates to be put to death. And one of the reasons he claims he's taking that position is because he says that, he doesn't believe in objective morality. So all of his moral claims about Islam, he's just expressing to you his feelings, what he doesn't like. He's just expressing his feelies, his little feelies. So when he doesn't like apostasy law, or when he doesn't like this, it's just he doesn't like it, but he's not saying it's wrong. It's not inherently immoral or objectively immoral. It's just his subjective feelings about it, right? This is what he's saying in DMs and admitting to me, right? That's why he can't even really debate the topic, to be honest with you. Anyway, there's been a couple more super chats here. The Muslim Apologist sent something, super sticker. No message there, but appreciate that. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless and reward you. We got a new member here. Shout out to the new members. Chocolate Wallah. Okay. Brother man, you can do a lot of good for the ummah from here in the States, like the PBD podcast. If you move abroad for hijrah, you may not be able to achieve the same effect. We need you. Well, that's an interesting take. I don't know why you say that, because most of the, online dawah stuff, especially since COVID hit, unfortunately, most of it has moved online. I mean, it was online before, but a lot of it is online. Not as many in-person debates and gatherings and that kind of stuff happening. Slowly starting to pick up again, but COVID really hampered that. But anyway, yeah, I'm not sure why you would think that, because I could stream from my house in Morocco just as easily. The PPD podcast flew me out to the event, so if they invited me back again, they could easily fly me there from Morocco. There's really no major difference as far as that goes. I'd be able to do pretty much the same work, and actually more, for several other reasons, but I'm not going to get into this stream, because I don't want to make the stream too long. Actually, it's only going to probably be about an hour max, because I have an appointment in about an hour. So anyway, Apostate Christian, man, that short really embarrassed him, because he just can't believe that somebody would watch that stream and think, oh, the Muslims outperformed the Christians. They actually did better, even though they don't agree with us on everything. And that's clearly what you see. Now, to show you guys that it's not just Shad, we got another new member. Appreciate that. To show you guys that it's not just me taking it out of context, I want to share my screen here and show you the fuller clip here. Okay, here we go. So this is from one of the Christian guys that was in the clip. This is the full clip here that I took from.
Because a lot of this discussion that they had focused a lot, I can see it's 2 hours and 18 minutes, focused a lot on morality, the issue of apostates, should they be killed. Both the Muslim guys, the apologists, were defending their views and bringing it at the other guys about the Bible and the Old Testament with, sometimes God would call people to, destroy a certain city or people, people who are against him, or issues of morality, homosexuality, things like that. So these guys, the Muslims, were coming at the Christians, and sadly the Christians, Rashid and...
So the Muslims were coming at the Christians. They were bringing their arguments. He's mentioning all the points. And now he says the part which is featured in the clip. Sadly, the Christians, Rashid and Robert Spencer.
And Spencer, those guys who are supposed to be the Christians here, did not
those guys who were supposed to be the Christians there, notice he's even, sort of hinting at the fact that they weren't actually representing what he considers to be the Christian view.
Doing, in my opinion, a very good job in responding to these guys. But there's a lot of...
They didn't do a very good job in responding to these guys. All right? That's what he said. Now, does that mean that he agrees with us about everything? No, because it's taken from a video where he's attempting to refute one of my claims, which wasn't even a major subject of the debate or discussion, which was about my claim regarding Justin Martyr and him not believing in the Trinity, and the church fathers prior to Nicaea not believing in the Trinity. But anyway, I've made videos on that, not responding to him directly, but to other videos, Inspiring Philosophy and Jay Dyer, which you can check out on my channel. So, but anyway, very clearly, I didn't take him out of context. He thinks that the Christians did not do well, right? He didn't think they did well at all. They did not do a very good job. Okay, so now let me share my screen for the next one, which is called a video on my channel, which is called Islamophobe Throws Fellow Islamophobes Spencer and Rashid under the bus. So this is 2 minutes, so it's a longer version of the clip.
And I really think they caught.
And here's a fourth person who wasn't featured, Steve Meshny. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he was in the stream with Scam Shamoon. So you can see what he says here.
And I really think they caught. I think maybe they caught him off guard a little bit.
So he's talking about the Muslims and Christians. He's saying, I don't know. I think the Muslims caught him off guard.
And it was like, I hate to say this,
And he's like, and I hate to say this because he's a Christian. Look, he's got a cross in the background. But he knows the Christians did a terrible job. We roasted them.
Love Rashid. He's the first time I ever was on.
He's saying he loves Rashid. He knows Rashid. He's been on his program. So he hates to say this, but he has to say it. What is he going to say?
On TV was with Rashid,
he's not a debater, and he's not that.
And now Scam jumps in and says, yeah, but he's not a debater and he's not qualified.
Equipped in the Hebrew scriptures.
He's not equipped in the Hebrew scriptures. Look at this. They're throwing him under the bus. He's not equipped in the Hebrew scriptures because neither one of them could have dealt with the points I was bringing up. Right? They're agreeing with the Muslims. And you'll hear him. He goes on to say it's not inherently immoral for the death penalty to be applied to apostates. You have to hold that position as a Christian because they realize otherwise my argument follows through. And therefore, you can't use that as a critique against Islam to say it's false because it's not that which inherently is immoral to therefore make holding such a position immoral and false. It's going to have to be on other issues, extenuating circumstances or relevant to what you think that it's been abrogated by Jesus, which is a whole nother claim. But then it's the debate over is Christianity or Islam true, not whether or not, apostates being put to death is immoral in and of itself.
I know him too. I met him, but see, people have to know this is what.
And he says he knows Rashid too, and he met him. But he says people got to understand. So, brother Rashid, I hope you listen to this, Apostate Rashid.
I was trying to say earlier. Everyone has to know their gifting and stay within their lane and gifting.
Everyone has to know their gifting and stay within their lane. He basically is telling you these guys stepped out of their lane and they got run over by a truck, by a Mack truck.
When you venture out of your calling and gifting, then it becomes an embarrassment.
Oh, look at that. When you venture out of your gifting and calling, then it becomes an embarrassment. He's saying these guys were embarrassed.
When it comes to debating, specifically, the Old Testament, he's not equipped. It's not against people. He's actually.
There you go. When it comes to debating the Old Testament, Rashid, your brother, Scam Shamoon, is telling you that you are not equipped, sir.
Connected. Just to let you know, I don't know if you know about him. His podcast is huge. It's like on the level of Joe Rogan. He brings in Mike Tyson. He brings in NFL players, Hollywood stars. He's huge. He's not some Joe Schmo. That's what makes it more embarrassing.
He said that's what makes it more embarrassing is because it was on such a huge platform. He's saying the Christians were embarrassed by the Muslims. Wow, look at that beautiful, handsome face. Oh man, he looks demon possessed. Subhanallah. Oh boy. Can you guys see that? Wow. Oh boy.
So whatever God says and whatever God legislates, then by its very nature, it has to be moral. It cannot be immoral. Okay, so
There you go. Whatever God legislates and commands, it has to be moral. It can't be immoral.
that's what he was trying to set up Robert Spencer. And he did set him up, and Spencer did fall for it.
So that's what I was trying to set up Robert Spencer with. I did set him up, and Robert Spencer fell for it. That's what he's saying. He made a big mistake, according to Scam Shamoon.
If killing apostates is inherently evil, and then
Which Robert did eventually say. First he said, oh, I think it's a trap. Then he said, I don't know. I never thought of it. Then he said it was immoral. Then I showed him he shouldn't be saying that. And then he waffled around, but still eventually kept saying that it's inherently immoral. So now he's going to show you. See, Scam Shamoon, completely hates me. I have no love for the guy whatsoever. But he will admit that he understands the argument being made and how Robert Spencer and Rashid completely failed. And they threw the Bible basically under the bus, because by them saying that it's inherently immoral, which Robert did explicitly say, that throws the Bible and Jesus Christ under the bus, and the whole Trinity for that matter.
then God legislates the killing of apostates, then you're saying that God is inherently evil. See this?
You see that? So he just showed you that. If you say that it's inherently immoral, then when God legislates it, you're saying God is inherently immoral. That's what Robert's position wound up in.
This is a mistake of not knowing your Old Testament.
That's a mistake of not knowing your Old Testament.
You see, that was the point where Robert kind of got off, because
That was the point where Robert got off. See, two Christians telling you.
He said it wasn't moral.
trying
He said it wasn't moral. This is where he dropped.
See, Scam said he did, referring to Spencer, he did say it is inherently immoral. And he said this is where he dropped the ball.
So that's Robert Spencer dropped the ball because he answered presumptuously. He answered quickly instead of thinking about the Old Testament. This is the problem with many of these apologists. They're not trained in the Old Testament. And they think they can simply ignore the Old Testament. The Muslims are not going to ignore the Old Testament. You with me there?
Yes.
So if you're going to deal with Islam and jihad, you better know your Old Testament.
Yeah.
See that? If you're going to deal with Islam and jihad, you better know your Old Testament, because then you could be trying to refute the Muslims and your refutation winds up back on you, refuting you.
Yeah. And
Christians, you can't bring up jihad if you don't know your Old Testament and the wars and have a good excuse that's consistent and not inconsistent and hypocritical.
There you go. See? He's basically accusing Robert Spencer and Rashid of being inconsistent and hypocritical. There you go. So now that's two Christians, Scam Shamoon and his buddy, plus the Catholic guy before. No, not the Catholic guy, the Protestant guy before, who I just showed that clip from. Now let me show you this last clip. So this is a 9-minute video, okay, and which is on my channel, which I went into a lot of detail. Actually, I forgot to mention, by the way, which I didn't include, how about the host himself, Patrick Bet-David, the very Christian host himself? What did he say about Robert's performance? He said, if I had your performance, basically, I would be, actually, I don't want to misquote him. Let me bring it up here. Because I don't want to misquote Patrick Bet-David. Okay. What did he say? He said, you sound bitter and upset and frustrated. You were given an opportunity to come discuss the differences between Islam and Christianity. They, meaning the Muslims, seemed prepared with pointed questions to ask you, while you, meaning Robert Spencer, seemed defensive. Being upset with your performance is understandable. So what is he saying? He's saying the Muslims were prepared, came with pointed questions to ask, while you seemed defensive, and you should be upset with your performance. And you sound bitter, upset, and frustrated now. So that's Patrick Bet David, a Christian, the host of the show, who came out and said it afterwards and didn't really want to, but Robert attacked him, so he had to let him know the truth and how it actually is. Right? You see? So now we've got the host himself, Patrick Bet David. We've got that Protestant Christian who I just shared that clip from earlier. We've got Scam Shamoon and his buddy. And now I'm going to show you the last guy who went into a lot more detail. And if you actually understand what's going on and why this is relevant, then it'd be making a lot more sense for people like Apostate Christian. Okay, so here it is. This is a video on my channel, which is called Honest Christian. Says Robert Spencer made Christianity look really bad. So let's take a look at this video.
Are you a Christian man who is silently suffering from this super secret thing in your life?
I have to call it how I see it. The Christian side made huge mistakes in this debate.
There you go. The first thing he says, the Christian side made huge mistakes in this debate. You see? The Christian side made huge mistakes in this debate. And this is a Catholic.
I recently watched the Christian versus Muslim debate that took place on Patrick Bet David's podcast. And I have thoughts on it. The Christian side messed up. Bad.
He has thoughts on it. The Christian side messed up. Bad.
Ultimately, I think that there was one moment in the debate where the Christian side messed up really bad.
So there was a point in the debate in which the Christian side messed up really bad.
And for people on the outside looking in that maybe aren't too deep in the weeds on the situation, I think that people on the outside looking in, just objectively watching the debate, seeing it for what it was, I think most people.
So people just objectively watching the debate for what it really was
would say that the Muslim side actually won the debate. Why do
most people would say that the Muslim side actually won the debate, right?
I say this? Well,
now he says, why do I say this? So he's going to explain why he said it. So there's no ambiguity, Apostate Christian. He's going to explain to you why he says this.
There was a point in the discussion where I think it was the Muslim skeptic that asked a very important.
So he actually misquotes, or not misquotes, but he thinks it's the Muslim skeptic or Daniel who asked the question, but it was actually me, the Muslim Metaphysician, that asked the question. Not that it's a big deal or anything, but just so you understand, so you don't get confused on what he's talking about. You'll hear it right here.
Question to Robert Spencer, and Robert Spencer's response was not good. Not only was it.
So I asked the question to Robert Spencer, and Robert Spencer's response was not good. Not only was it not good, but he's going to tell you it was wrong.
Not good. It was not good because he actually gave the wrong response. He gave an incorrect response. But before he gave the incorrect response, he kind of fumbled, and at first said that he didn't know. He said that it's not good.
See,
not only was it not good, it was
actually,
not good
I gotta
because
slow
he
it
actually
down.
gave the wrong response.
I was going to speed it up, but this is too good.
Good. It was not good. Spencer's response was not good. Not only was it not good, it was not good because he actually gave the wrong response. He gave an incorrect response. But before he gave the incorrect response, he kind of fumbled and at first said that he didn't know. He said that he didn't know.
You see this? He's recapping exactly what happened just the way that I am. And this is a Catholic Christian.
He got pressed on it. He knew that he had to give a response. So he did, and he gave the wrong response. So the question that was asked of Robert Spencer, the question that was asked of the Christian side, is it inherently immoral to administer the death penalty for apostasy? That's the question. Is the death penalty for apostasy inherently immoral? And Robert Spencer, the first thing he said when that question was asked, he said, well, I think this is a trap. Didn't make him look good.
See, didn't make him look good.
And he kind of fumbled.
He kind of
didn't make him look good. He said he didn't know. Didn't make him look.
He said he didn't know. Didn't make him look good.
Good. And then finally he said he gave an answer because he knew he had to, and it didn't make him look good because it was.
And then he gave an answer because he knew he had to, and it didn't make him look good. Why? Because he gave the wrong answer.
It was the wrong answer. And as soon as he gave the wrong answer, his Muslim opponent immediately jumped on it and said, well, he jumped to the scripture to show the inconsistency in Robert Spencer's answer. And the answer Robert Spencer gave, which is the wrong answer, was the answer to the question, is it inherently immoral to administer the death penalty for apostasy? Robert Spencer said, yes, it is inherently immoral, meaning, no, it's not moral to do such a thing. That is the wrong answer. Yes, it's true. And a lot of people maybe don't.
You see that? And this is a Catholic Christian guy. This is not some Muslim jihadi like what you're saying. He believes that it is moral for an apostate to be put to death, that it is possible to enact that punishment, right?
No, don't realize it. But the death penalty is not inherently immoral, even for something like apostasy. And if capital punishment can be applied for certain crimes against your neighbor, such as murder, capital punishment can be applied also when you commit certain crimes against God himself.
So look at the reasoning he's using there. He's saying, look, if you believe capital punishment can be applied in certain cases against your neighbor for murder or whatever it may be, how much more can capital punishment be used for a crime not just only against your neighbor, but also against God? This is what he's saying. Is this a Muslim jihadi crazy guy? No, this is a Catholic Christian who believes in Pope Francis.
Against God directly. And this has always been understood in the Judeo-Christian tradition. And when you read the Old Testament, it's very clear. And when Robert Spencer gave the answer that he gave to say, no, it's not inherently moral, he said it is inherently immoral. His Muslim interlocutor capitalized on that inconsistency, and he went to the scripture, he went to the Old Testament, and he pointed out all of these places where God allowed capital punishment for apostasy. So Robert Spencer said that capital punishment for apostasy would be inherently immoral. I think it was the Muslim skeptic pointed out that the Old Covenant, the Old Testament actually allowed for it. And what that would mean is that, according to Robert Spencer, God allowed for something inherently immoral, or that God commanded something inherently immoral. You can't say that. God isn't the author of evil. God cannot command anything inherently immoral.
There you go. Just like Scam Shamoon, and I'm not going to disrespect this guy because I don't really know him that well, but just like Scam Shamoon, this Catholic Christian is understanding the argument and understanding why Robert completely failed. And to be honest with you guys, one of the main things that people remember from this debate is the whole issue of apostasy and apostasy laws and what the Muslims said about it and what the Christians said about it. And the Christians are agreeing with the Muslims that it's not inherently immoral. So they don't have a problem with apostasy law in and of itself, right? Now, they may not be applying it now because of the Pope recently, I think, not allowing for capital punishment, simply because, and he actually explains this in a video and other Catholics have explained it, not because it's immoral, they just don't think it should be done at this time right now. But that doesn't mean that it was immoral in the past, and doesn't mean that it's immoral if it happens in the future. They believe that it can be reinstated. And I believe he even says that directly in the video.
If it's a command that comes from God, we know that it is moral, whatever the command is, because we know that God, in his nature, God is good, and anything that he commands, anything that is part of his direct will, we know that it is moral. Not only is it permissible, it is moral. And that applies even with capital punishment, even for something like apostasy, right? If the next pope wanted to, he could change it back, and he could say, we can use the capital punishment.
There you go. What'd he say? He said if the next pope wanted to, he could change it back and say, yeah, we use capital punishment for apostasy. You see? He explicitly says it. That a pope can enact that no problem. Why is apostate Christian not coming after this guy? Why is he not coming after this guy?
And it wouldn't be a contradiction. It wouldn't be a change in the moral teaching of the church. It's just a change in discipline. And disciplines can indeed change.
So it's a change in discipline. It's a change in discipline over time, whether you do this or that, but it can change over time. It can change from pope to pope, but neither it allowing it or not allowing it is inherently immoral. It's just a change in discipline and how the law is applied. But the next pope can enact that and say the death for apostates, boom, we're putting it back in place. It's not there saying it's immoral. It's just that it's not being applied. That's not the penalty that's being applied at the moment. But the next pope can do it. That's what he's telling you. Now, does Robert Spencer accept that? He can't accept that when he says it's inherently immoral. Because if it's inherently immoral, then the Pope couldn't do it, and God certainly couldn't do it. That's why they were totally rinsed on this point, and it's the number one point that both Christians, Muslims, non-Muslims, whoever remembers from the debate. Because you have to understand, Robert Spencer has made his whole career on these type of things, like apostasy law, stoning, all these different things. Islam is violent, jihad, he calls himself Jihad Watch. And just like Sam Shamoun said, you can't talk about jihad if you don't know about the wars in your Old Testament, because then you might be refuting your own position. See, these guys don't know their own tradition and they don't know their own scripture.
And when God allowed the leaders of the Old Covenant to exercise capital punishment, it was because they had the authority to do so as a civil authority, not just as a religious authority. Here in the West, for the most part, we have a separation of church and state. Well,
he's going to talk about church and state, but somebody just sent in a super chat, so I just want to read it real quick. Assalamu alaikum, akhi. Sister Rashid is bragging about the 20 ridiculous points you didn't respond to. It's understandable. You stayed on topic, but could you answer her on X, or is it not necessary? Somebody already responded to all those points on Twitter, so that's already there. But again, and we've explained this to you guys many times in the audience, a lot of you have never been in a debate, a lot of you have never been in a discussion and don't know how it works. But when you are making a particular argument and trying to drive home a certain point, and somebody like emotional sister Rashid or apostate Rashid just tries to throw out 20 different red herrings and do machine gun tactics, the only thing you can do in that case is point out the machine gun tactics and then try to address each one of them, because you cannot address 20 different points and take in that type of setting in the way that it was. There's no possible way you could do that. So that's his tactic. But everybody knows that, and there was nothing really new in terms of the points that were brought up, and they've been responded to in the Arabic world, in the Arab videos that people responding to him, as well as in English. A lot of these low-level arguments have been responded to many times before, but he was just an emotional wreck and couldn't control himself, so he just had to spout off a bunch of nonsense. And of course, he knew that we weren't going to have the time or really opportunity to respond to some of these points. So anyway, let me go back to playing a clip here.
And a lot of people don't know this. Did you know that as Christians, a separation of church and state actually contradicts scripture?
There you go. He's saying that church and state should not be separated. He doesn't believe in secular government. He does not believe church and state should be separate. So what does that mean? He believes that the church and state should not be completely separate.
It contradicts God's divine will.
Contradicts God's divine will. That's what he's telling you.
Separation of church and state is actually something that is condemned by the church. Catholics, Orthodox, and even Protestants, we actually can't support a separation between church and state. That goes against the Christian faith. And in order for
you see what he's telling you there, Catholics, Protestants, and Eastern Orthodox, we cannot accept a separation of church and state. It goes against the church. This is what he's telling you.
For the kingdom to be able to stand and be able to function and be able to work the way that God intended it to work, they had to be able to exercise that power, that authority. And that's actually something that the Muslim side brought up, and they articulated perfectly.
Did you hear that? That's something the Muslim side brought up, that separation between religion and the state. There should not be a complete separation between religion and the state. or church and state in his case. And what did he say? What did he say, guys?
That it to work, they had to be able to exercise that power, that authority. And that's actually something that the Muslim side brought up, and they articulated perfectly.
That's something the Muslim side brought up, and we articulated it perfectly. So is he agreeing with the Muslims? Yes, he is agreeing with the Muslims. Does that mean that he agreed with my critique about Justin the Martyr and the Trinity? No. Does that mean that he agrees with me about every single point? No. But on some of the key issues, which we spent more time speaking about, he agreed more with what we had to say than what these fake liberal Christian wannabes had to say.
It is they are absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. Every state, every country, every kingdom, and its individual citizens need to be under one accord. If they're not, that society will eventually fall apart, which is what we're seeing right now in the West, because we're not all under the one accord. We don't all have the same morals. We don't all have the same beliefs. And a society like that, where there are radically different beliefs within the same society, it cannot stand. That's why it's so important that every society is based on something where everybody can be united on one accord. And for us, historically, it's been Christianity. You know,
see there? Oh, we have to be all under one accord. And for him, and historically, it's been Christianity in the West. That's what he's telling you.
You know, in the Middle East, historically, it's been Islam. And that's why Muslim states run so well and smoothly, is because they understand that Islam is the official religion of the state. And in the West, we had that as well, until church and state were completely separate, which was a huge mistake made in the West. And then in the New Testament, in Christianity, there was, again, we had a great setup. We had the church, we had the state.
So he's not only talking about Old Testament times, he's talking about New Testament times and the prior to the separation of church and state, like what you have in the U.S. and in Europe and stuff.
And the Christianity was the official religion of the state, of the Roman Empire. The civil authority, the Roman emperor.
You see, he's talking about the Roman Empire. We had a great setup. We had the Roman Empire. We had the official state religion as Christianity. This is what he's talking about, right? And how come Apostate Christian isn't responding to this?
Was able to exercise his authority based upon the truth of the Christian faith. And
so he's exercising his authority based on the supposed truth of the Christian faith. That's what he's telling you.
That could include capital punishment for sin.
And that could include capital punishment for sin, not only apostasy, but other sins. He's talking about in the Christian era, during when they had the Roman Empire and Christianity was the official state religion. That's what he's telling you, not in Old Testament times only. So you telling me no Christians understood it this way? He's telling you that's the way it was and always has been until, unfortunately, the separation of church and state, which he thinks is against the church and the Christianity itself. So David Wood, Inspiring Philosophy, Apostate Christian, Sister Rashida, also known as Apostate Rashid, all of you guys are being refuted by these other Christians. So don't act like, oh, we're some radical, crazy people, jihadi Muslims. No, look at what your own Christian brothers are saying. And they're saying you threw the Bible under the bus. You threw the church tradition under the bus. You threw the church and Jesus Christ under the bus.
And that's perfectly understandable. That's perfectly valid. There isn't anything wrong with that. And again, we recoil at this idea, but it's just the truth that sins against God directly are just as egregious, just as grave, and even more grave actually than sins against your neighbor. And that's something that it's really hard for us to get in our head, but it is absolutely 100% true. And again, if you don't enforce,
Fikum barakallah, appreciate that super chat. But again, what he's saying here is, notice what he's saying here, guys. He's saying, if you believe there could be capital punishment for a sin against man, like murder, killing somebody else, then of course, by greater reason, you could believe that you could have capital punishment for a sin against God of something like apostasy or other sins. That's his argument. That's what he's saying here. Okay.
Force that society cannot stand. Society will fall apart. Capital punishment is not inherently evil or wrong. Capital punishment is morally permissible right? But remember, it's a discipline, and it's a discipline that doesn't have to be used as long as citizens within civil society don't break the law or sin in a way that would require capital punishment to be used. It's there for the protection of the society itself. So it's
So there you go. He's defending the Muslim position, which we said, and he said we articulated perfectly in the debate, and the Christians didn't. They threw the Christianity under the bus, that it's to protect the society.
actually a good thing. It's
a good
unfortunate
thing.
that it
So he's saying enforcing these death penalties for certain crimes is actually a good thing, not a bad thing. It's not only not evil, it's a good thing, he's telling you.
has to be used, that people would commit such heinous crimes that would merit capital punishment. But it's good that we have it for the protection of the society as a whole and all of the citizens within that society. And this is something that, again, I think the Muslim side in this debate articulated very well.
So there you go again. He's telling you again, this is something that the Muslim side articulated very well. He's telling you all the things we articulated very well. What is he saying about the Christians articulating well? Nothing.
And the Christian side, unfortunately, kind of got caught slipping on this particular.
The Christian side got caught slipping.
Their subject. But it's very, very, very important to understand. When Robert Spencer made that huge mistake, it just made the Christian side look really bad, and it made it look really inconsistent. So
there you go. When Robert Spencer made that huge mistake, it made it what? Let's repeat it again.
But it's very, very, very important to understand. When Robert Spencer made that huge mistake, it just made the Christian side look really bad.
It made the Christian side look really bad when Robert Spencer made the huge mistake.
And it made it look really inconsistent.
Made him look really inconsistent. Sorry, Robbie.
So Christians, we need to do better in understanding.
Christians, we need to do better. That's what he's trying to tell you.
These difficult concepts and the moral law. We need to understand the moral law and how it is applied civilly, because Muslims actually.
You hear that? We need to understand the moral law. He's telling Christians, we need to understand the moral law and how it's applied civilly, meaning in society. Why? Because the Muslims did, and they articulated it perfectly, he says.
We have a much better understanding of the civil application of moral law than a lot of Christians in the West do.
There you go. Muslims have a much better understanding of the civil application of the moral law than Christians in the West.
This is probably the most important and most prominent debate that has been had in a really long time, because more people watched this debate than watched any of the other debates, I would imagine, that we know of here, like within the Christian circle and within Muslim circles. This was on a very prominent platform that reaches a wider audience, not just a religious audience, but a wider, more broad audience.
There you go. He's just explaining about the how big the platform, PBD platform, was. So there you have it, folks. Now, am I just cherry picking? No, I'm not just cherry picking. I'm just cherry picking at all. Somebody sent a super sticker. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless and reward you. Really appreciate that. Thanks everybody for the super chats and everybody here watching and commenting. Let's see. Here we go. Last word. Do you think that Christianity lends itself to liberalization or secularization? It doesn't make sense on a foundational level, i.e. Trinity and crucifixion and New Testament contradicting Old Testament. Yeah, I think that Christianity typically does lead itself towards liberalization and secularization, because although a lot of what this guy's saying is good in the sense of we would agree with him on some of the principles, a lot of Christians have thrown them under the bin, in the bin. And that's because that what I argued for in the debate, in the discussion on Patrick's show, is because you clearly see a development of doctrine in Christianity very early on. They're more comfortable with the development of doctrine. So they're obviously going to be even more comfortable with developments when it comes to moral law and the application of moral law. And the understanding of moral law really has degraded in the Christian West. And that's why you have the society being run the way that it is. And they have this complete separation from church and state. And now look at all the people that you have in power, all these fake liberal Christians and secular atheists and all this kind of stuff. And now we know what they're pushing. We know what doctrines and things that they're trying to inject into society and teach in schools and all that stuff. So anyway, this video was meant to show very clearly in that short clip, but then expand on how that clip was. And we can see that people like Apostate Christian and these atheists and even the Christians like David Wood, Inspiring Philosophy, Jay Dyer, Scam Shamoon, all these different people are banding together because by themselves, they've got nothing. They realize how bad this discussion went. Even Patrick Bet David said, I would be disappointed in that performance if I were you, right? Saying, man, we know. Look at you, Robert Spencer. You made your whole career on this, and then when you were asked a question about it, you said you never even thought of it. You look terrible. You threw Christianity and the Bible and the tradition under the bus. It was just terrible. Somebody's saying their super chat is not working. Well, like I said, if you just wanted to contribute and donate, do consider going to the link that's ticking at the bottom, the GoFundMe page, or pinned in the chat. And you could just donate there and then ask your question here. And I'll try to respond to your question, inshallah. So anyway, guys, I don't want to make the video too much longer, and I'm going to have to attend to a meeting here in just a second. But I will be doing another live stream probably tomorrow night. There's two subjects which I want to bring up. One is going to be a live stream on the Trinity, responding to some other claims about some other writers, specifically Eusebius. So I'm going to be responding to that. So I'll be doing a video on that either tomorrow, or there's another video which I'm going to do specifically on the apostasy law and showing that Sister Rashida and his good friend, the Islamophobe Robert Spencer, are wrong about the Christian tradition, and that what this Catholic is saying is true. And I'll show you where he's getting it from, because the most prominent theologians in the Christian church believed in the apostasy law being death and it being applied and it being a good thing in the Christian era, not just in the Old Testament, but in New Testament times. They approved of it. They approved of the death penalty for apostasy and many other crimes, not only against humanity, but against God. Here we go. Bubblegum gun. Apus just mad because he ugly changed my mind. I can't change your mind on that. I can normally make good arguments, but I can't change your mind on that. Anyway, Apostate Christian, let it be known that he was invited to this stream. He didn't want to come on. Maybe we'll give him the sake of argument. Maybe he has something going on personally. I don't know, but he didn't come on. And because I was going to address all of his points one by one and respond to him and then show him that he had nothing really going for him. But anyway, with that being said, guys, I'll see you all tomorrow night, inshallah, around this time, probably around this time again. And it will either be a stream on the Trinity or apostasy laws, specifically in the Christian tradition. Okay. Anyway, I hope the sound and the camera was a little bit better than last time. This is the better camera that I should be using. And I have a good mic, but unfortunately with my current setup, it's not easy to use. But anyway, guys, until next time, please consider giving this video a thumbs up. We've got over 400 people watching. We've got, mashallah, we've got a lot of people watching this video. Please, if you haven't already, give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. If you don't like it, give it a thumbs down. Unsubscribe. I don't care. Leave a comment in the live chat. Leave a comment after the video goes up. It helps with the algorithm. And share this video on your social media platforms, no matter how big or how small. I tell people all the time, even if you have 10 followers, share it with some of your friends or family that you know may be interested in these kind of videos. Share it on your social media and help this video and my work get out to more people. And as I always say, if you want to go above and beyond, please consider donating to the GoFundMe link at the bottom that's in the description of the video, in the live chat, and also ticking at the bottom. Because as I said, GoFundMe only takes about 2 to 3%, and YouTube and Patreon take about 40 to 50%, unfortunately. So if you want to support my work and would like to see me do this more and make a lot more content and videos to free up some of my time, please consider donating. Anyway, guys, until next time, I thank you all for watching. I'll see you again tomorrow night, inshallah. Until then, though, have a blessed night or day. You might be in Australia or wherever you are. But until then, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.